Hello friends, Adam here with FED. Today's video idea comes from Propazzi, and if you have your own video ideas you would like to submit to me, make sure to hit me up on Discord. You can find me on Discord by joining the FED server, which you can find the link to in the description of this video. And from there, just tag me or personal message me. I'm always open to talk. So yeah, send me your ideas. So today we're going to talk about my ideal Fire Emblem game, based on all the games that have come out so far. And I'm also going to take a little bit of instruction or a little bit from Berwick Saga and maybe a little from Tearing Saga as well. We're going to go through just like three things: story, gameplay, and then like classes specifically that I want to see, or the changes I want to see with Classic. So let's start with our story. I want the story of my ideal Fire Emblem game to not be able to fit into one singular game. I want it to span at least two, maybe even three. Give me this cool trilogy of Fire Emblem. Of course, I want each one to contain its own story and feel like it has a finish to it, some finality, but also leave the door open to continue it with even more world building and more lore and history and stuff. I personally would love that. It doesn't even need to be like a direct sequel, even if it's like 10 years later with different characters, or maybe it's a prequel 10 years before with different characters, something like that. But that's all just kind of affected by the same thing. The closest we've gotten to that, I think, are the Tellius games. You could also argue Mystery of the Emblem did this with Book 1 and Book 2. But I think we see it even more with the Tellius games being a continuation of the story completely, where you feel like you end Path of Radiance. It is a total end of the story, but there is a looming threat that is introduced to the player in the form of some exposition dumped at the very end. It's not like an exposition dump. It's just a few lines of text from a specific character after they're done talking to Ike, and it's honestly pretty cool. And it's just like, I honestly didn't get it at the time, but then Radiant Dawn came out and I was like, oh, that's what that's about. I love that kind of thing. I love it when a game series acknowledges its prior game, and really treats those who have been with the series for a long time or have been playing them for a while. I think that's one reason that Awakening was so popular when it first came out too. I mean, I know there's a lot of more hardcore fans that didn't really appreciate it at the time, but I really liked the nods to different series. There's being different weapons from different games in it. The Outrealm was pretty cool, and being able to summon like spot pass warriors and be able to fight like the Grail mercenaries in Awakening was pretty cool. Stuff like that. I was really into that. So, but overall, I just want a huge story to cover like the entire world that the game takes place in, that covers at least 2 games, maybe even 3 if they can pull it off and not make it feel bloated. Now let's move on to gameplay. We're going to get a little more specific because it's easier for me to do that. I didn't want to sit here and like write a story or something for you guys, because frankly, it probably wouldn't be very good. But with gameplay, I want to sit down and really hammer in on a few things that I hope are staying or come back from previous entries, or things I'd like them to remove. So the big thing I want them to either stay or bring back are different movement options and movement tag. Like rescuing, so rescue dropping. I love the idea of shoving being just universal rather than a learned ability like in Fates or Three Houses. That honestly kind of bums me out. Like, why does that have to be an ability? Can I just push someone? Like just push them? And with that, give me like Smite and stuff too that you can learn. I really like those abilities in particular to just be kind of universal, that every unit can use it. It's really nice, personally. I like it. And then with that, you have to add like a weight mechanic to make it so you only can shove certain people with certain people, to keep it from being just you can shove train anyone with anyone. And then yeah, you need some balancing with like con and weight and all this different stuff. Next thing that I want to add back that I really miss, I want support affinities back. You look to Tellius with the Earth affinity, which gave a void, or the Fire affinity, which I believe gave like attack and hit, and different stuff like that, and just adding support bonuses that way rather than it being honestly sort of ambiguous as to what you're going to get from a support that you see in like Three Houses or in like Awakening. It's less about giving boost to avoid and hit and stuff, and more about like pair ups and pair up stats and whatever else, and dual striking and stuff. And that's fine too, but I just really like the simpleness of every unit having an affinity that they can get and give a bonus for if they support with someone. It makes it really easy to understand, and I really love the tangible results you can feel when you get a crazy pairing like in Tellius. You do Ike with Oscar and get an A rank with them. They both have Earth affinity. Then you get plus 30 or 45, whatever it is, of Earth, Void, and that's just stupid good. I personally really like that, and I would love to see it come back like that. Not a big fan of support systems as of late, but I would love a return to form to a more GBA Tellius style of supports. Next, I want Gambits to stay. I love Gambits in Three Houses. The ability to lock down a mass of enemies is so just, it's a fun tactic, and it's really like feels good to use. I can't tell you how many times now I go back to play older Fire Emblem games, and I just wish I could use a Gambit, because there's this giant mass of enemies. It's like, if only I had Ashes and Dust right now, you know? If only I had Blaze right now, and just lock down these 10 enemies right where they stand, or 9 enemies right where they stand, and you're just safe. But I understand, like, I don't know, you have to balance the game around it. I think Three Houses did a good job of it sometimes with like monsters and stuff. But yeah, love Gambits. And along with Gambits, I do like the idea of these big hulking monsters that take up multiple spaces, and like you have to break their guard and stuff. It adds a little bit of extra tactical stuff and thinking. I mean, overall, it doesn't do a whole lot in terms of tactical thinking, because you just kind of have to break them. You just do it, you know, with Gambits and whatever else, and effective combat arts and effective weaponry. But it was still fun. It was something you had to do and think about, and I appreciated it. So with Gambits, I'd love to see monsters make a return, and just more varied monsters. Give us different things. I feel like basically, I'm trying to think in Three Houses, but all I can really think of are like the wolf guys, the bird dudes, the the wormy guy, and then just like the dragons in Silver Snow, and then of course the like sacred, or whatever they call it, the relic beast, the ones that have like little relic chips in their head, those ones, creepy dudes. I think there's like flying ones and non-flying ones of those. Actually, and also then there was like the giant Dedu one. Yeah, never mind, there's quite a few, but I'd love to see even more personally. Honestly, kind of reminds me of like Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced. Actually, not Advanced, A2. I'm not sure. I haven't played all the way through Advanced, so I don't know for sure. But at Final Fantasy Tactics A2 for the DS, there were like the first mission. There is this cockatrice who is just like takes up like it's either 4 or 9 spaces, and I would love to see that return, like that kind of thing. It'd be more common in Three Houses. Just these big hulking monsters. It's really fun to play around and deal with. And of course, the last thing I want, just for sure to be here for gameplay in my ideal Fire Emblem, is varied map objective. I think the game that I personally think did this best, you could disagree with me, is Radiant Dawn up until you get to Part 4. When you get into Part 4 in Radiant Dawn, the game kind of goes downhill. It's all route chapters and it's all garbage. It's a lot of just stuff. It's a lot of enemy spam. Not the best part of the game. But in not Radiant Dawn, but I mean in not Part 4, before that, there's, you know, seize, there's defend, there's route, there's you know, just there's like even just like kind of odd ones that are like, oh, kill this many enemies to win. Or even crazier in 3 Endgame, you know, the objective is not even told what it is. You just start fighting and killing things, and every time a unit dies, whether it's a green unit, a blue unit, or a red unit, whoever it is dies, adds up onto this counter until it gets to 80. And once it gets to 80, the map, there's a big event and the map ends. And that's just so cool to me. Like, varied map objectives. Give me all the varied map objectives. All of them. All of them. Okay. Now, stuff I don't want to be in the next Fire Emblem game that have become somewhat commonplace. Skills are fine. I want skills to be in the game, but I want there to be less of them. And I don't even mean less skills overall, too. I mean, I'd be fine with the same amount of skills, but I don't want units to be able to equip so many. It's so much to keep track of, and it's honestly kind of annoying, if I'm being honest. having, in 3 houses, you have every player character has a unique personal ability, and then they have 3 class abilities. Then they have 5 other abilities that they've learned that they can equip, and it's just so overwhelming to me personally that I'd much rather see a return to like Yggdrasil, where every character there might be some class skills, and there might be a couple. Like, units might have a personal skill or 2, and then there might be like skill scroll items that you can give to people, or skill manual, the books that you can give to people to give them new skills. But it's not like every enemy has a million skills. It's not like every unit that you use has a million skills to keep track of. Just keep it a little more simple on that front. Maybe just a couple of skills. Maybe add the, like in Tellius, where you have the little skill wheel that once you fill it up, you can't have any more skills, like your skill points. Something like that would be nice to return. And the other thing I want removed is battalion bonuses. I think battalions, it's just, my joy in Fire Emblem personally comes from the really simple to understand and easy to grasp numbers of it. So I don't have to sit there and consider, adding a bit like, this battalion adds this much hit and my avoid and blah blah blah, and this gobbledygook of numbers that I have to remember. Luckily, they do usually present it in a pretty easy to understand way on the front screen, but it's a lot to take care of, and it honestly just makes it so your units become even more powerful and stuff, and it's not necessarily a good thing. So I say keep battalions in the game for gambits, and maybe even just make the battalion bonuses less important. I don't know, like some of them giving like 7 attack or whatever, and then like 15 crit. Just a little overboard for me personally. I think it's a little too much. But keep battalions, just less bonuses. Okay, last thing, classes that I want in or out or to change or how they work, right? So in my ideal Fire Emblem, the classes are not fluid. I do not like, in my personal, if I'm building this Fire Emblem game, I don't like the idea of reclassing in it. I feel like it takes away from the individuality of characters and their usefulness in battle and in game, and it makes everyone, it just kind of homogenizes the massive units to being less, they're less important. It's just less important. Every character's so samey, And I feel like they partially do that because everyone's going to have a different favorite character, and every character is at least someone's favorite, which means every character in Intelligent Systems' eyes needs to be really good, or something along those lines. So I understand why the characters have become so samey over time, but I just want them to move away from it personally and make characters unique again. Give me cool, unique classes like freaking Master Knight. I don't know, I'd love to see that again. Everyone would, right? Or give me, like in Berwick Saga, for instance, the classes are less important than, but like the classes, like there's a lot of characters that even just have unique classes to them and maybe just a couple of enemies, which is cool. And then even on top of that, every unit has other things that make them really individual and special. Whether it's a specific ability to use like large shields or use lances from the get-go. And by lances, I mean lances in Berwick Saga are just really dangerous, terrifyingly strong weapons, whereas spears are kind of like the run-of-the-mill lances you would think of in Fire Emblem. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, and just give me unique units. I guess that's all I'm getting at for the classes. I don't want not fluid, make everything kind of locked, but give every character some utility. Give them a reason to exist. And again, Berwick Saga does that so incredibly well. Even units that you think aren't that great have great utility. Like people might disagree with me, but there's a unit, Christine, who joins in the first map, who is a mounted archer. And it's funny because you already have another mounted archer who I'd argue is just like, as far as combat goes, is miles better. But she has the unique ability to be able to swap mounts. So she can trade horses with other people, which is an important part of Berwick Saga, because horses can die and you have to buy new horses. She can trade horses with people, and then after the chapter ends, she heals that horse a little bit. So if you use her correctly, you can you can trade horses around to keep them all healthier than they would have otherwise been. But you have to deploy her to use that skill. So it's just all like, so even though she might not have the best combat, especially to start out, she has a use. And that's how almost every character in Berwick is. There's maybe one or two that I would argue are a little less like that, like Derek. 150, am I right, guys? But yeah. Make characters unique again. That's all I want. But those are just my thoughts. Thank you for standing around. Thank you for staying around and listening to me ramble for like 10, 15 minutes. I really appreciate it. And make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you want in your ideal Fire Emblem? What does your ideal Fire Emblem look like? I'm really curious to hear and read. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. We put up videos almost every day discussing different topics in Fire Emblem and hopefully some other games coming in the future. And yeah, like the video. Bye, guys.